Back in the 50s, we'd never had it so good, although some of us had never had it at all. Great Britain was going to get greater. Everyone was going to have cars and money. So they took a load of Geordies, Scots and Cockneys out of the rundown mines and the shipyards and dumped them in the middle of green and pleasant England. They built a new town and called it Telford. Their kids were going to grow up happy, healthy and well paid, making car door seals for British Leyland. 20 years later.
The Telford we know today is a far cry from the Telford of the 1950s. A small cluster of towns and villages at the heart of the Hollick countryside was to become Dawley New Town, a landscape scarred by dereliction and abandoned industry resembling the face of the moon. The area was scattered with old mine workings, abandoned pit heads and spoil heaps, the relics of its former mining heritage. Small towns such as Wellington, Dawley and Madeley tried in vain to prosper amidst the decaying landscape. Landmark monuments such as Randley Chimney and the famous Iron Bridge became sad relics of the Industrial Revolution. In the 1950s and 60s, the government of the time were looking for solutions to a housing crisis happening in bigger cities such as London and Birmingham. Two large-scale new towns were planned as overspills for both cities. Shropshire was chosen as a suitable location for Birmingham migration. Two further sites were suggested, Allerton and Dawley. The Staffordshire village of Swinnerton was also suggested because of its location next to the proposed M6. Shropshire County Council fully supported the proposal for Dawley New Town. Neville Jones, the then Chief Executive, said, "We have a moral duty to help Birmingham's housing problem." Dawley Urban District Council felt that Shropshire County Council were out of their depth with such a ridiculous proposal.
No, certainly not. The whole essence of a new town is that industry and industrial jobs must match the population. If anything, there must be jobs there before the people come. This is not the situation in Dawley at the moment, so of course we're not satisfied.
But do you think Birmingham's doing all it can to encourage firms to move to Dawley?
This is obviously a difficult question. Certainly speeches have been made by people in authority in Birmingham, such as the fact that Birmingham must cling on to its industry, otherwise it would become a depressed area, for instance, which leads one to doubt whether Birmingham is wholeheartedly behind overspill and new towns in particular, and all that implies to happen.
Regardless, the Town Council eventually supported the idea as it brought much needed investment into the small town of Dawley. In 1963, Dawley New Town was in planning. John D. Madden and Partners, town planners, were appointed to prepare the master plan. By March 1964, the land acquisition was well underway. Sir Reginald Pearson was appointed as the first chairman of Dawley Development Corporation. Priorslee Hall was purchased from the Lillishall Company for £11,500 and became the corporation's headquarters. By 1965, work was underway building 2,039 homes on Sutton Hill, which were for sale and rent. Also, construction commenced on Tweedale Industrial Estate, the town's first new employment site. In 1967, work started on 2,400 corporation houses on Woodside, an estate designed using the Radburn superblock principle. The estate featured a local centre and a pub and also 2 smaller shops at either side of the area. During this time, work was also progressing on a much larger shopping precinct called Madeley Centre. A massive infrastructure of roads and sewers were installed on Woodside, Madeley and Rough Park. The new town was well underway. By 1970, the Brookside estate was under construction, still using the early Radburn design code. Brookside earned its name from being next to the Maid Brook, which was flooded in 1972 to create Holmer Lake Balancing Reservoir. Brookside was a turning point in modern estate design, leaving the Radburn principle behind and opting for in-house architects. Earlier, in 1968, the TF postcode was introduced and the town changed its name from Dawley to Telford, after the famous civil engineer Thomas Telford. Also, during 1968, Halesfield and Tweedale Industrial Estates were still attracting new businesses like Chilcott's and the Coventry Gauge and Tool Company. Halesfield was built on 460 acres of former colliery land. It included a burning waste tip, known locally as the Matterhorn. In 1969, Eton, Yale and Town forklifts relocated to Halesfield, bringing 500 jobs. Every new town needs a centre. In 1969, plans were underway for a 168-acre shopping centre. Phase 1 opened in October 1973, giving 268,750 square foot of retail space. Over 100 square feet of space was allocated to a European hypermarket known as Carrefour. This was the first of its kind to be built in the UK and was groundbreaking. I hope you've enjoyed the introduction to Telford New Town. There's much more to come. In future episodes, we will look at each area in more detail. Join us next time.